Split is a film directed and written by M. Night Shyamalan, and it's most notably starring James McAvoy as a character named Kevin Wendell Crumb, who has dissociative identity disorder and is developing this new personality that he refers to as a beast, as he is kidnapping these three teenage girls and keeping them locked up in a room in his basement. M. Night Shyamalan clearly has a lot more success with his films at the box office, and just generally makes better quality films when they're independent low budget films compared to his bigger budget studio films like The Last Airbender and After Earth. And Split is a great example of what he can do with the low budget film and how he can bring in some great production design and generally some great cinematography and camera work. Now, by far the biggest positive with this film is the acting. This is my favorite performance from James McAvoy of all time, because he has to play the role of a person with dissociative identity disorder. He has to transition to other personalities a lot of times within one scene, and that can be very difficult. He has to portray the personality of a little 9-year-old boy named Hedwig, and he also has to portray the personalities of adults like Dennis and Patricia. And he also has to portray one hippie character who talks about Asian music and how the sun makes you find your passion or whatever. But he nails each personality to a T. He knows when to be intimidating and when to be really corny or ridiculous with some of the personalities, especially the 9-year-old boy. He can generate some great comic relief with that particular character, but at the same time, sometimes being really intimidating too. It's really good. He was so good in this film all around. I loved his performance here. And Anya Taylor-Joy as a teenager and in general a protagonist in this film, she nails it here. She has to play the role of someone who's really scared and intimidated by Kevin and what's going on with him, but also displaying some survival instincts that she's learned from a very rough childhood. She is so well-rounded in this film. Great acting performance from her and the other teenagers too. I also really love Betty Buckley's performance playing Kevin's psychiatrist, Karen Fletcher, because she feels like a real psychiatrist who actually cares for her patients and can genuinely challenge them and connect with them. And that's what separates this film from a lot of other horror films revolving around mental illness. Because in a lot of horror films, the psychiatrists are so bad to a point where you're questioning why they were ever hired in the first place. But that's not happening here. You can actually appreciate her character because she cares for and understands her patients. But at the same time, I wish there wasn't so much screen time dedicated to her, to the point where it took away from the pacing of this film as a thriller. But other than that, this was a great character played by a great actress. But really, other than that, this is a very well-paced film. This is a thriller that will constantly keep you on edge. It has such a great build-up in the second act with a lot of the personalities. You become increasingly intimidated by them. Even the 9-year-old child. They managed to create suspense with a lot of the little things too, like some great camera work, very smooth camera work, and the angles they set up are so creepy and unsettling. The lighting is also really good and effective in some particular scenes in the third act. I'm not going to go into spoiler territory with that. But in general, they also have some great production value and cinematography. And the score of this film is very effective and unsettling. It's so suspenseful. But this is a very well-rounded suspense film, as I said. But my biggest issue with this film is with the ending. They try to tie in aspects of the backstory and a lot of the exposition they go into with the psychiatrist, and they try to make it tie in at the end. They try to bring it all together, but it didn't make sense logically. They tried to make it make sense, but it didn't. They could have made it more ambiguous to where there was less exposition and explanation of what was happening, and that would have been a lot more effective and it would have made for a better ending. But with those issues aside, this is a very suspenseful thriller and one of M. Night Shyamalan's best films. I'm giving Split an A-. But as always, I hope you enjoyed this review. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you in the next video.